Okay, so in this video I'm going to take a look at Sam Harris's response. He has responded to the YouTube drama. It was all of his own making, him going around saying it's okay for the left to conspire against the right, calling Donald Trump evil, comparing him to a meteorite. I bet Donald Trump took that as a compliment. Anyway, Sam Harris, as you know, if you've seen my previous videos, if you've been, keeping up to date with this drama, he said he didn't care that there had been a left-wing conspiracy to suppress the news about Hunter Biden's laptop, so long as it meant that people voted Democrat, that Donald Trump did not get a second term as President of the United States. He is a modern-day Plato. He thinks we can't handle the truth. He's an intellectual snob, but I'm sure he's also got some redeeming qualities too. We are none of us perfect. Anyway, let's see how Sam Harris addressed all of this in his most recent podcast. It's always interesting. Ooh, I like the intro music. Hey, some serious shit is about to be said. Proper intellectual deep shit. I should have some intro music like that beginning of my videos. People will take me more seriously.
Welcome to the Making Sense podcast. This is Sam Harris. Okay, well, I seem to have caught a case of Twitter cancer.
Twitter cancer? Unfortunately, it's inoperable, Mr. Harris. Unfortunately, it has metastasized and spread not only to your brain, but your heart. And strangest of all, it appears to be affecting your soul. I'm sure that won't worry you too much, Mr. Harris, eh? After all, there is no such thing as a soul. I don't know where I'm going with that joke.
Last week. And it was probably Facebook and Instagram cancer, too. But I don't look at those platforms. Anyway, I was on someone else's podcast and said some things about Trump and Biden. And those statements produced a fair amount of outrage in a very large group of people.
Yeah, but don't beat yourself up too much, Sam. They're just basically trailer trash. The people who are worried about Trump, about a conspiracy against the Republicans, most of them are trailer trash. You don't need to apologize to them, right? It basically shouldn't be allowed to vote. We let them see things like the Hunter Biden laptop, and they just go back to their trailers and they confuse everyone else in the trailer park, and everyone thinks Trump's gonna save them from the lizard queen Hillary Clinton or something. They don't know what the fuck's going on, do they? You need to get them back into their cave watching the shadow play. Get back to your trailers and watch cable TV. You just worry about, keeping your fridge stocked up with beer, right? And leave the thinking to the clever people like Sam Harris and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. They'll sort us out. We'll be fine.
So I think there are a few points I should clarify. There's nothing of real substance to walk back.
You said that it was okay that the left conspired against the right and suppressed the story, that the mainstream media and the Democrats colluded to suppress a news story about the now president's son so that it would not negatively affect the result of a US general election. You said that was warranted because Trump's awful. Trump's way worse. You hate democracy. It was obvious you hated democracy if it doesn't give you the results that you want. As intelligent as you are, as well-read and articulate as you are, Sam Harris, you're wrong on this one. This is a problem with democracy. Sometimes demagoguery, basically always demagoguery, is what wins an election. Sometimes they follow through on that demagoguery, at times they don't, but it's basically who wins the mudslinging contest. You know that, and you could see that your candidates were not capable of beating the other candidates, and you didn't like it, despite having seen 4 years of a Trump presidency where there were objectively some very, very positive things to come out of that. But your bias won't let you see that. And it wasn't just one day when you misspoke. You've been doing it for 6 years now. You're like Don Quixote when somebody mentions arms or errant knights. You lose your shit when somebody mentions Trump.
But the truth is, I wasn't speaking very clearly or systematically on that podcast. And in one place, I actually misspoke. And as a result, there seem to be a few significant misunderstandings that have gotten amplified.
So here Sam goes on to make a couple of really good points and actually sort of defends Trump from the fake news and quotes and citations taken out of context where people have accused him of being racist, etc. And he makes some really good points. But the problem is he still can't accept that what he said wasn't taken out of context unless, of course, like with the word conspire, you take the word or the turn of phrase taken out of context to mean literally not in its context, then yes, his quotation, the thing he said, was taken out of context, literally speaking. But it didn't change the meaning. What he said is that a conspiracy by the left was warranted because we had to stop Trump, and it was fine. It didn't matter, right? And then, of course, he was being hyperbolic when he started talking about there being, even if there had been rotting corpses of children in Hunter Biden's basement, he wouldn't have cared. We all got that. Is that the bit where he misspoke? The sentiment behind it is the same. Your feeling is that people shouldn't be exposed to the whole truth because they can't handle it, because they're stupid. The candidate that you dislike must be stopped by virtually any means necessary. Tell me where I'm going wrong with this.
I tried to clarify a few of these points on Twitter, knowing that I would be doing little more than spit in the wind. But I still think it was probably good to attempt this, and to do it quickly, because several of the articles that got written about the episode noticed those tweets, and so they didn't spread precisely those same misunderstandings.
The tweets he's referring to, by the way, I put them in my first video about this whole drama, this whole situation. The tweets were exactly the same as what he's saying now, that he didn't say anything wrong, that people are taking things out of context, and then he started blocking everyone about. He started blocking Avi Yemeni and Gad Saad and people like that who were criticizing him. He is not taking responsibility for his words. His words were not taken out of context, even though literally they're taken out of the podcast, so they're taken out of context, which is what he says. They're not taken out of context because they mean the same thing, right? We still understand what you meant by that, even watching a 2-minute clip. There's no ambiguity.
Of course, some people noticed my effort to clarify things and rejected it.
Yes, because there's nothing to clarify. You just said a completely stupid fucking thing. You need to come out and say, yeah, oh God, I was a bit of an idiot. I was on a podcast. I don't know what I was saying. You don't recognize that what you said is extremely worrying and damaging. Whole swathes of the right in America already think the election was robbed. What do you think comments like yours do to those people? You building bridges? Eh?
At moments like this, I'm always reminded of Nietzsche's aphorism that when you force people to change their mind about you, they hold the effort you cost them very much against you.
Oh, for fuck's sake. This guy's like David Brent. He's got a book of philosophical quotes on his desk. What the fuck are you saying, Sam? You're a public personality. People base their opinions on what they see and hear of you. Stop gaslighting them. Yes, some people already hated you and had it in for you for whatever reason, but some people, like myself, were just disgusted by what you said. Accept it. Own it. Either you absolutely meant it or you didn't. There is no ambiguity here.
This really does seem to be true, and it's pretty maladaptive. We tend to want to hold people to the worst possible interpretation of what they said, even when it's belied by other things they said in context and continue to say. This happens on both the right and the left, politically. And this is the problem with taking clips of audio or video out of context. Of course, any clip is, by definition, out of context. That's what a clip is.
Is that what a clip is, though, Sam? Because actually, if you think about it, a clip is a chamber which can be loaded with bullets and slotted into a pistol. And those bullets can then be fired out of the shaft of the pistol in order to kill people. So you need to think about clips as potentially murderous weapons, telling us what a fucking clip is. We understand things can be taken out of context, Sam. It just so happens that in this case, the case involving you, most of us don't think that your comments were taken out of context. apart from in the literal sense. I want to get into the semantics of what it means to take things out of context. What a clip is.
Nerd! But many are chosen for the ways they seem to make a point very clearly, when the editor knows that the actual point being made is far more complicated, or even contradicted by something else the person says a few seconds or minutes before or after the chosen clip. For instance, many of you will remember that it became well established on the left that Trump referred to the white supremacists and neo-Nazis who rallied in Charlottesville as, quote, very fine people. There were very fine people on both sides. You remember that? That was something that Trump said in a clip from a press conference, where he was attempting to address the aftermath of those terrible events. Everyone from Biden on down insisted that he was talking about the neo-Nazis and other obvious racists as, quote, very fine people. And almost everyone on the left still insists that this was the case. But if you watch the press conference, you will see that he wasn't doing that. How can we know this? Because he says so. He literally says that he's not talking about the neo-Nazis and other racists. However, in my experience, if you tell people who want to think the worst of Trump about how misleading the clips from that press conference were, they are highly disinclined to believe you. And many of them come up with arguments for why they don't have to believe you. They say things like, well, there was no one else there. They were all neo-Nazis and racists. So Trump saying that he wasn't talking about them doesn't hold water, because those were the only people to talk about.
So you see, folks, what I said was not, in fact, what I really said. It's important to understand that taken out of context can mean literally not in the context in which something was originally seen. A clip is, by definition, taken out of context. And what Trump said was not in support of neo-Nazis. Therefore, what I said was absolutely fine.